Marcus, I got a quick question for you. And this may be a chicken and the egg question. I'm not 100% sure. But when I'm just going to take Lizzo, for example, because the sexy red is just a whole different animal to try to tackle at this moment. So we're talking about the image, right? Who said it first? Accept me for who I am. How did that messaging get out? Like I can understand how if let's say I was the that proprietor you're talking about, and I want to capitalize on on that particular messaging. Which came first? Did black women say, "Hey, just accept me the way I am," or was the messaging before? And that's something that they bought into. I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
I think so. Now we got to. All right. So which one you said with Lizzo, right?
Yeah.
So I seen a documentary that talked about the FDA food approval. You know, I'm not even gonna talk about that. So I seen a movie that talked about the cyclical cycle of, or that's double negative, but the cycle of trends. It's called. Damn, do you remember that the name of that movie? You know, shit. So in that movie, what they do is they use advertising to make things popular so that they could sell the product. And then they make that product harmful so they can sell a cure. And then they make the cure harmful so they can resell the product. So one of the things they used as example was fast food. The fast food was so dangerous that it caused these people to be on my 600-pound life. And then on my 600-pound life, they got gastric bypasses and they promoted this healthy lifestyle. Then they needed to sell something else. So then the gastric bypass went to show that they had low negative self-image. So now they need to okay the fast food again. So the fast food was okay because you had to love yourself. It just went in a cycle and kept doing that. Problem, cure. The cure is a problem, and then just kept doing this. So in Lizzo's life cycle, it probably was the cure is the problem. We walking back into the problem is not is okay. You know what I'm saying? What they say, hard times create soft men. Soft men create hard times. Hard times. You know the cycle. I'm just waking up, so you got to excuse me.
So I have a question though, because I'm a 90s girl, 80s baby, 90s girl, and we were just as poor in the 90s, if not poorer. And I just didn't see, it was a small group of the booty, you had the Dina Howard. It was such a small group, right? But I did not see the image being the way it is now, even under the same circumstances. I saw more of Black unity, Black power, people were proud of their heritage, all of those things. So, what do you think the difference is?
Oh,
Consumerism's changed, right? Because I saw somebody in the chat also question the whole poverty thing. The debt to income ratio is probably one of the things that's changed the most drastically from the time you're talking about to where we're at now, where people are in debt more than they're earning. So this idea that I need to buy things to fulfill this lifestyle, I need to buy things to keep up with this image, I need to buy things to compete with the Joneses, has really set people in a situation where most people will never be able to come out of debt with the habits that they have and the lack of financial literacy, right? And then you have social media on top of it that just fuels this idea that if you wear the same outfit twice, then you're a certain economic bracket, right? You have people renting clothing to be able to keep up the image that they can afford to not wear something twice. So when that's what's going on in the world and the behaviors that people are having, you mask poverty in a way that before people just accepted and lived within their means.
I think the other thing though too is that the difference in that time period is that you still had remnants of a community. So even though a dad may not necessarily have been in, been in the home, you had a community. So there were male figures that were there that also, helped with or were around or were examples for other young boys in the community. We had a lot of programs that were available at that time as well that, help keep kids off the street if their parents were working. So again, you had the YMCA after school programs. It was a lot that I think at that time was available. And again, I think as a whole, the society as a whole were kind of on the same page in terms of the culture at that point in time. I don't think it was as much influence from social media that we do have now versus then. It was less exposure to a lot of things that was unacceptable, then that is acceptable now. So I think those things have also influenced and changed, as well.
So when I hear this, it takes us back to that first question when Shan asked, "Is there an attack on Black women?" Um, my counter to that is I think the attack itself has pretty much, when I say the community, it has been on Black men to help keep the community separate. One of the things you mentioned just now was there were still men around, which means they hadn't completed their goals. So the mass incarceration continued throughout the 90s to
Mhm.
continue to break up that Black family, which led to a much smaller community or tribe, if you want to call it more like a tribe. And as the tribe shrank, more individualism became, and here we are in 2023, right? Like I think the attack itself was to remove the man from and I know we're not to that in the part of the show because I think Shannon's going to get there, but um, when I see it, it makes me think more. Were women more used? Like, I'm not saying that women weren't used and weren't attacked, but were they used more like pawns to help continue the divide of the community? And I think as we break this down, I think we'll get into that.
So just surface level, I guess, to what Marcus was saying about like the cycle part, right? Is when the man is in the household and a woman grew up with her father, she will tend to either follow her father's programming or her husband's programming. So by removing the man, she's now susceptible to societal programming. And then what happens when that man's away, right? Now she gets this inflated sense of self where she could just be whatever she wants to be and makes it known to the world that she needs to be accepted as is, which breeds a combative behavior, which means she's not going to find a man who's going to marry her. So now she's having children out of wedlock, right? And so I understand what you're saying about the attack on men in terms of that forced removal, but there's still the attack on women so that that removal sticks instead of just being a temporary issue.